The sun was beginning to rise over the calm waters of the Sea of Galilee, when the life of the fishermen was already in motion. Small wooden boats rocked gently near the shore while damp fishing nets rested on the stones. The cool air of the morning carried the scent of water and wet wood. Some men were repairing torn nets. Others were unloading the small catch from the night. Among them were several fishermen speaking with concern. The past few nights had been difficult. Sometimes they returned with their nets nearly empty. For men whose families depended on the lake, this brought uncertainty and quiet worry. As they spoke among themselves, a man walked slowly along the shoreline. His figure appeared against the soft light of the rising sun. It was Jesus of Nazareth. Several fishermen recognized him. They had heard about his teachings in nearby villages. Some had even seen people healed after listening to him. Jesus stopped near one of the boats where several men were working in silence. One of them lifted his head. "Teacher," he said, "we worked all night, and we caught almost nothing." Jesus looked at the fishing nets spread across the stones. Then he looked toward the lake, whose surface reflected the first golden rays of sunlight. "Many men work with their hands," Jesus said calmly, "but they forget that they must also trust with their hearts." The fishermen listened carefully. Jesus continued, "If you want to understand the power of God, remember this: trust in God and discover His supernatural power." One of the fishermen frowned slightly. "It is difficult to trust when the nets come back empty," he replied. Jesus bent down and gently held one of the ropes of the fishing net. "When you cast a net into the water," he said, "you do not immediately see the fish beneath the surface. Yet you still throw it with hope that something is there." He then raised his eyes toward the men. In the same way, when a heart remains firm, a person begins to affirm faith and live daily miracles, even in the middle of difficulties. The fishermen remained silent. The sound of the lake softly touching the shore filled the space between the words. Jesus continued speaking as he slowly walked beside the boat. "The words you speak also carry power. If a man speaks only of defeat, his heart becomes filled with fear. But if a man declares the word of God, something begins to change inside him." One of the men asked quietly, "Can that truly change a person's destiny?" Jesus answered with calm certainty, "When a heart truly believes and a man declares the word of God, his destiny can change." The morning wind gently moved the nets hanging to dry. Jesus pointed toward the horizon where the sun was now fully rising over the lake. "God made promises to his people," he continued, "promises of guidance, hope, and life. But many forget those promises when difficulties arrive." The fishermen listened to every word. "That is why I tell you," Jesus said, "repeat the divine promises and you will feel his presence, even in the hardest moments." One of the fishermen looked down at his calloused hands. He had spent most of his life on that lake. "And what happens if we keep believing?" he asked. Jesus looked at him with a gentle expression. "Then you will begin to see something that many people never see." The lake now shone under the full light of morning. Jesus concluded, "When a person truly trusts God, when faith remains strong, when his words declare truth and his heart remembers the divine promises, then something extraordinary begins to happen." He paused briefly. "Believe, and you will see wonders in your life." Silence settled again among the fishermen. The sound of seagulls crossing the sky echoed above the water. One of the men looked out toward the lake. Perhaps the nets would be cast again that night. Perhaps they would return full. Or perhaps not. But something had changed. The words of Jesus had planted a new way of seeing life. A way where the work of the hands and the faith of the heart walked together. And as the sun continued rising over the waters of the Sea of Galilee, the fishermen began to understand that sometimes the miracle begins long before the nets are filled.
Though it is the smallest of seeds, it grows into the largest of trees.